one black coffee. My hands trembled. The liquid in the glass rippled. I turned around. Tran Kong, sitting in the corner, dark suit, same cold eyes. But something about him looked tired. Our eyes met. In that instant, every sound around us disappeared. I turned away immediately, forced my breathing to stay steady. I told the owner I wasn't feeling well, and stepped into the kitchen. Less than 5 minutes later, he walked behind the counter, and his voice was deeper than before, rough, like he hadn't slept in days. I didn't turn around. You've mistaken me for someone else. He stepped closer. I've been looking for you for almost a year. My chest ached, but I kept my voice steady. You should leave. The person you're looking for isn't here. He stood behind me for a long time. Then finally, I'm sorry. 3 words. That was all it took for the walls I had built for months to begin to crack. But I didn't turn around because I knew if I looked at him one more time, I wouldn't be strong enough to keep my distance. I left work early that day. I really believed if I walked away fast enough, I could avoid him. But the moment I stepped out, through the back door, he was already there, standing across the narrow alley, still, waiting, just like before, the same kind of alley, the same kind of silence. Only this time, I wasn't the same anymore. Are you still running away? His voice was calm, not loud, but heavy. I tightened my grip on my bag. You should go home. I've been looking for you. Everywhere. Low, steady, and I'm not leaving. Because of one sentence. I turned to face him. For the first time, in almost a year, he looked thinner, more tired, dark circles under his eyes. The sharpness I once knew was gone. Now his gaze felt different, like someone trying to hold on to the last fragile thing he had left. My heart softened, just a little, and I hated myself for that. Why did you look for me? I asked. He didn't answer right away. A few seconds passed. Then, to apologize, I let out a small laugh. Dry, almost empty. You don't have to, I said quietly. It's all in the past. No, he answered immediately. For me, it's not. I turned away. But for me, it is. I started walking, faster than before. I heard his footsteps behind me, close, but he didn't touch me. He didn't stop me. He only said one thing. Before I closed the door, I'm not leaving. That night, I sat against the door. For a long time. No lights, no tears, just the sound of rain. Soft, endless, and my heartbeat, completely out of rhythm. The next day, Min looked at me, longer than usual. Do you know him? His voice was gentle. I wanted to lie, but his eyes were too calm, not accusing, just concerned. I nodded. An ex. I didn't know what to call him. A client, a memory, a mistake. He's my past. Min didn't ask anything else, but I saw his hand tighten around the cloth he was holding. That afternoon, Kong came back. This time, he didn't sit quietly in the corner. He waited outside for me. After my shift ended, Min saw him. No one said a word, but the air felt heavy, too heavy to breathe. I stepped outside. What do you want? Let me talk. His voice was softer now, almost careful. I was ready to refuse, but Min spoke from behind me. Go. He paused. If you don't say it clearly, you'll never be free. I turned to look at him. There was pain in his eyes, the kind he tried to hide, and somehow, that hurt me more. I followed Kong to the park nearby. We sat at opposite ends of the bench, far enough to feel like strangers. I found out about your father, he said. My body went still. I didn't know. That night, you had just lost him. His voice broke, slightly. I looked down at my hands. Knowing or not, doesn't change anything. He turned toward me. It does. A breath. At least, I can apologize. I inhaled slowly, but the emotions were already rising. Do you think an apology erases everything? He didn't answer. He only said, no, but I still need to say it. Silence fell between us. Long, uncomfortable. And then, I finally said the thing I had hidden for so long. I never hated you. He looked at me, confused, because I knew someone like me doesn't deserve respect. I said it calmly. Too calmly. He stood up immediately. Don't say that. I gave him a faint smile. It's true. I sold myself. I accepted their stares. You only said out loud what everyone else was thinking. He stepped closer. For the first time, there was no contempt in his eyes, only regret. No, he said, I was wrong. I judged you. I took my anger out on you for things that had nothing to do with you. I stayed silent. He continued, slowly, carefully. You were never like anyone else. I just refused to see it. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I turned away. It's too late. No. He shook his head. I don't want to return to the past. I want to start again. I let out a soft, tired laugh. Start again with who? A normal girl, or someone who once sold herself. He looked straight at me, no hesitation. With Lam An. A pause. A normal girl that I want to pursue again. From the beginning, my chest tightened, so tight, I could barely breathe, but I still stepped back. Because I knew, if I moved even one step forward, I would fall into the same storm again. And this time, I wasn't sure I'd survive it. I thought he would leave after that conversation. But the next morning, when I opened the cafe door, he was standing across the street, holding 2 cups of coffee. No black suit, no cold eyes, just a man in a simple shirt, looking strangely out of place in our small neighborhood. He He didn't walk toward me. He just lifted the cup slightly, like a quiet greeting. I turned away. But the next day, he was there again. And the day after that, still there. He didn't talk about the past. He didn't try to explain. He only asked simple things. Did you eat breakfast? Was the cafe busy today? It might rain. Don't forget your jacket. At first, I thought he was trying to fix everything with small gestures. But slowly, I realized he wasn't trying to erase the past. He was starting over, from the beginning, not with pity, not with guilt, just patiently standing outside my life, waiting for me to let him in. I told myself not to soften, but my heart began to tremble with every rainy day. Min saw everything. He never asked me to choose. Never blamed me, never showed anger toward Kong, but every time he glanced at the cafe door, his eyes grew a little heavier. One night, after a late shift, I walked out of the alley and saw them standing at opposite ends, one holding an umbrella, the other holding a bag of food. No one spoke, but the silence between them felt unbearable. Min stepped forward first. Have you eaten? He asked softly. I shook my head. He handed me the food. I made extra. Kong didn't interrupt. He just stood there, waiting, as if the decision had always been mine. That was the moment I realized, just by existing between them, I was hurting them both. Later that night, Min said quietly, I know you haven't forgotten him. His voice was calm, almost a calm. I'm not good at competing, but I want you to be happy, even if it's not with me. There are people so gentle, that you wish you could disappear, just so they won't get hurt. I started losing sleep. In the daytime, I pretended everything was fine, but at night, I sat by the window, watching the rain, wondering what I was doing. One man was a painful past I couldn't forget. The other was a gentle present. I didn't know how to love properly. One afternoon, I dropped a tray of dishes. The sound of breaking porcelain made something inside me shatter too. I ran behind the cafe and cried on the cold ground. Kong came, but didn't touch me. He just sat a short distance away. Min came later, leaning silently against the wall. No one asked why I was crying. No one forced me to speak. And somehow, that silence hurt the most. I'm tired, I whispered. I don't know what to do anymore. Kong spoke softly. You don't have to choose right now. Min nodded. Just choose what won't make you regret. And that was when I understood. The most painful choice wasn't between two men. It was learning how to forgive myself. It rained heavily that night. I left work late. The road back to my small rented room was empty. Rain struck the tin roofs in thick, relentless waves, sounding exactly like the thoughts that had been trapped inside my head for months. I thought I had learned how to carry everything alone, how to smile like nothing was wrong, how to act as if I wasn't quietly falling apart. But when I turned the familiar corner, I saw him, Trankong. No umbrella, no raincoat, just standing beneath the pale yellow streetlight, as if he had been waiting for a very long time. I almost turned away. Then he spoke. I won't take another step, unless you want me to. I froze. The rain was cold, and somehow, so were my tears. Why won't you just give up? I asked, my voice dissolving into the storm. He was silent for a few seconds. Then he said, slowly, because I once walked away, when you needed to be understood the most. I don't want to make that mistake again. I let out a small laugh, but my throat tightened. You don't owe me anything. I said, everything that happened was my choice. He shook his head gently. Maybe, but how I treated you, that was mine. I stepped closer. The distance between us slowly disappeared. I'm not perfect, I said, meeting his eyes for the first time. I'm not a good person. I've done things that make people look at me differently. He didn't look away. I'm not perfect either. He said, I've hurt people. I've judged when I had no right to. If the past decides everything, then none of us deserve the present. And that was when I broke. Not because of pain, but because for the first time, someone wasn't trying to deny my past. And wasn't using it to define me either. I'm scared, I whispered, scared that if I try again, I'll become the old version of myself. He stepped a little closer, still leaving enough space so I wouldn't feel pressured. Then we go slowly, he said, slow enough that you can stop anytime. The rain kept falling, but this time, I wasn't cold, and I finally understood something. I wasn't running from him. I was running from the fear that I wasn't worthy of love. The next morning, I went to see Min. Some conversations can't be postponed forever. We sat in the kitchen after the cafe closed. The scent of fried onions still lingered in the air, strangely comforting. I know, he said before I could speak. His calmness hurt more than anger ever could. I lowered my head. I'm sorry. He smiled softly. Don't apologize for your feelings. Love isn't something you can force. I looked at him, feeling grateful and guilty at the same time. Are you sad? I asked. He nodded. Yes, he said honestly. But I don't regret meeting you. You helped me understand something. Loving someone doesn't always mean holding them back. Sometimes it means being brave enough to let them go. Tears slipped down my face. He stood up and gently touched my head, like an older brother would. Go, he said quietly. Live the life you once longed for. That afternoon, I met Kong again, not in a dark alley, but in a small cafe, in daylight, surrounded by people. Ordinary, like any normal date. He didn't bring up the past, didn't make dramatic promises. He simply asked, "Where would you like to begin?" I thought for a moment, then I smiled. "Start by seeing me as just a normal girl." He looked at me for a long time, then he smiled. "I've always wanted to." We walked under the rain that evening. No umbrellas. The rain was still cold. The past was still there. Wounds don't disappear in a single night. But for the first time, I didn't want to run, because I understood something. Loving someone isn't about erasing the past. It's about walking forward together, even if both of you have been stained by it. My name is Lam Ann, just an ordinary girl, someone who got lost, someone who once hated herself. And for the first time in years, I'm no longer afraid of the rain. There's something I've never told you. If you've ever believed you weren't worthy of love, then maybe you understand me. Some people aren't bad. They've just been through too much. So much that they begin to believe they are a flawed version of life itself. I used to think my past was a stain that could never be washed away, that if anyone knew everything, they would turn their backs on me. So I chose to leave first. I chose to be cold first. I chose to hurt myself before anyone else could look at me with disappointment. But I learned something. The scariest thing isn't the past. It's using that past to sentence yourself forever. We all make mistakes. We all lose our way. We all do things that, if given another chance, we would never do again. Or maybe, at that time, we didn't have another choice. Growing up isn't about erasing what happened. It's about daring to face it, and still giving yourself another chance. Loving someone didn't make me perfect. It simply made me brave enough to learn how to love myself. If you're still listening, and you still believe you're not worthy, remember this. You don't have to be perfect to be loved. You only need to be gentle with yourself, honest with your heart, and brave enough to take one small step. Every rainy season eventually clears. And maybe one day, you'll realize you're no longer cold. Not because life became softer, but because you stopped running from your own heart. But I have to be honest about one more thing. Starting over isn't the end of hardship. A year after I chose to love again, I learned something else. Falling in love is brave, but staying, when old wounds begin to ache again, that is the hardest part. And that story belongs to another rainy season.